The greatest internal achievement of Pericles was the refinement and completion of Athenian democracy. Since the reforms of Cleisthenes in 508 BCE, the system had been growing increasingly democratic. By the time of Themistocles, one major change was already underway. The archons, the chief officers of the state, ceased to be elected. Instead, they were chosen strictly by lot. A citizen's name was drawn, and he served as archon for the year. The only officials who continued to be elected were the 10 generals, strategoi, whose military expertise made the use of random selection impractical. Pericles introduced 2 major reforms that expanded democracy even further. He abolished the last remaining property qualifications for holding public office. This meant that any Athenian citizen, regardless of wealth, could become an archon if his name was drawn. Pericles also instituted pay for public office holders, including jurors and other officials. Previously, serving the government was unpaid work, which effectively limited public participation to wealthy citizens. With state pay, poorer Athenians could now afford to take time from their jobs in order to serve. This change made it possible for all citizens, rich and poor alike, to attend the assembly and participate in civic life. These reforms created what could fairly be called a full democracy. Every citizen could hope to hold office, influence policy, and shape public decisions. If a citizen disagreed with the government, he could attend the next meeting of the assembly, speak his mind, and attempt to persuade others. If enough citizens agreed, they could vote to change the law. Influence in Athens did not depend on office holding alone. Skillful speakers, even without official positions, could sway public opinion. Such influential figures were known as demagogues, leaders of the people, demos. Many demagogues became so popular that they were eventually elected general. Pericles himself rose to prominence this way and served as one of Athens' leading figures for roughly 30 years. Pericles also shaped Athens through other significant achievements. He promoted trade and commerce, supervised the rebuilding of Athens after the Persian Wars, and sponsored the construction of the Parthenon and the other major buildings on the Acropolis that still symbolize Athens today. Many historians argue that under Pericles the ideals of the Greek polis, civic participation, public service, cultural achievement, reached their highest expression. Yet the weaknesses of the polis system also became evident during this period. Relations between Athens and its allies in the Delian League steadily deteriorated. Although the League had originally formed as a voluntary alliance against Persia, the smaller Greek states were far weaker than Athens and found it difficult to resist Athenian policies. In the spirit of the polis, Athens pursued what benefited its own citizens, often with little regard for the rights or interests of others. Just as a polis recognized only the rights of its own citizens, Athens recognized only the rights of Athenians, not those of other Greek city-states. Once Athens gained the upper hand, it increasingly interfered in the internal affairs of its allies. Cities that had never joined the League were attacked and forced into membership. Athens justified these actions by claiming that such cities benefited from protection against Persia without contributing. In some cases, however, Athens acted simply because a city occupied a strategically valuable position. When members attempted to withdraw from the alliance, Athens forced them back in, sometimes by imposing garrisons, replacing governments with pro-Athenian regimes, or compelling them to adopt Athenian systems of currency and measurement. In 454 BCE, Athens took a decisive step. It moved the League's treasury from Delos to Athens. The Athenians insisted that, for security, a portion of the League's contributions should now be paid directly to Athens itself. This moment marks the transformation of the Delian League into an Athenian empire. The consequences were profound. Athens' dominance bred resentment, fear, and hostility, ultimately helping lead to the destruction of the Athenian Empire, and, in the long run, contributing to the collapse of the polis as the central form of government in Greece.